Okay,
so it is 7 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'm going to ask if there are any additions to the agenda. Okay, would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
so move.
Do we have a seconder?
Seconded.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded. The meeting is, or the agenda is approved. We're now going to move forward to presentations. I don't believe we have any this evening, so we have a whole lot of presentations for staff reports. Okay, so we'll start on council reports on assigned committees. We'll start with Councillor Point.
Nothing to report.
Okay, we'll move over to Councillor McCrory.
Yes, Your Worship, on June 19th, there was a meeting of Cape Breton South Recruiting for Healthcare. There was a meeting scheduled for August 15th for Cape Breton South Recruiting for Healthcare. However, it did not occur because there was some confusion over the start time. Yeah. August 22nd, Eastern Counties Regional Library had a meeting, and at that meeting, we started to work with a consultant that was hired by the province to help the Eastern Counties Regional Library develop a strategic plan. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Doyle.
Yes, Your Worship, the slow month, obviously, with summer, but yesterday we had a police advisory meeting in Port Hood, 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. I brought up some concerns that were brought to me. There was some speeding on different spots of town that was brought up. Some councillors brought it up, and I forwarded it, and that's my report.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McIver.
Your Worship, as Councillor McDougall stated, we had a police advisory meeting yesterday, and that's all.
Thank you. And I did circulate my committee of the whole report. If there's any questions at this time on any of those items. Okay. If not, we will keep moving on then to CAO reports, and I'll hand things over to our CAO, Terry Doyle, for those.
Thank you, Your Worship. So instead of the standard reports, we sent out sent out staff reports to everyone. So as usual, they're for your review and to ask any questions. We put some time into reviewing not just the last the summer or the month of September, but the term. So we have a presentation with respect to the what's occurred over the last 4 years. We've done this last term. So it's a term review looking at facilities, marketing, engineering, public works, and finance. So first, and what I ask is when we finish a section, then we'll be available for questions. And this was put together not just by me, but by all the senior staff, who are all here tonight. So any questions with respect to any of the subject matters, we'll be glad to answer. So from 2020 to today, and what is planned actually in implementation right now, these are the areas that have received paving. So over that term. So that's, and I'm not going to go through every one of those. I'll show you some examples. First of all, budget. So there's 22,500 square meters of asphalt completed over the last 4 years at a total cost of $1.769 million. Unfortunately, there's no external funding for asphalt. So that's one of the huge challenges that we find ourselves in. As you know, very hard to get money leverage for asphalt. Municipal cost was 100% of that at 1.769. No external funding. So just some photos of what's occurring right now and what's occurred over the last 4 years. Just some samples. And again, I won't go through each street. And this includes the work of the town as well. So that's the what's essential for keeping the roads passable is this pothole fixing and patching that we do, both utilizing the small milling machine and just filling holes, which we're doing right now. we're finishing off the patching role this year a little bit later because of our local plant closing last fall, and trying to get the mix and trying to get an arrangement for the supply of asphalt. If we want, I can take questions on asphalt now, or we can move to sidewalk replacement at T-Lane installation.
I believe it's on your business anyway, so
Okay.
we'll,
Is, yes,
unless you wanted to discuss it now.
I can.
Sure,
if
go ahead,
everybody
absolutely.
agrees. Yes, I had put it on the agenda. I had some residents wondering why only half streets were paved. And I wasn't sure myself, because I don't think we discussed it at budget as paving half streets. And I just wanted a little more information, and if other councillors remember talking about paving half streets.
So we presented a couple times on the plan for our asphalt paving plan. So during the budget process, the council had put forward a budget of $400,000 of funding for asphalt replacement, for an asphalt replacement project. So we looked at a number of areas and we tried to choose the areas that are most in need. So there were 2 complete streets that were completed. So you have Bernard Street, which is just being finished today, and a portion of Hiram Street as well. So those are the 2 complete streets. There was lane paving on Crandall Drive, on Queen Street, and a patch on Pine Ridge, small patch on Old Sydney Road, and yeah, and McSween, sorry, yeah, the bigger one, yeah, of course. So, I mean, we try to get the worst areas that we possibly can and try to get the most effect that we can out of asphalt. So if we had to have completed those other streets, there would have been a significant additional cost with that. As an example, with McSween Street, that portion cost $42,000, so that's for half of that street. So if you're looking at doing the other half of the street, that would be another $42,000. And so that's just one example. There were additions that were on the street. We extended the amount of paving on Queen Street. So when we looked at where we were finishing, it was finishing on an area of asphalt that was extremely poor. So that was extended. And there was a utility cut and patch that was put on there. We looked at the intersection at Pine Ridge and Spruce. There was a small extension there. So there was a total cost of the project was $275,000. We added another $20,000 on to stay within the current budget. We did extend as much as we can, but we're really just trying to get as much as we can for the budget that we have. There's a number of streets that still require that treatment. But that's what we had. We did present this, but I don't know. We did it twice actually, but and it's easy when we're looking at drawings and not seeing it. If there's something that changed, I don't know if that was the case. That's what we have in asphalt for this year.
Through you, Your Worship. Like I say, I don't remember hearing half streets, but also with it, we discussed the intersections, and I guess the concern is like when you're trying to match it up to a cold, I guess, scene, it's very hard to do that, and it gives more chance for water to get in and freeze when that happens, so your street won't last as long. And same as your intersections, like the Hiram Street intersection, there's probably 4 cold seams there. And that, if water gets in that and freezes, it won't last. Like, you'll go back next year and you'll be redoing the whole intersection. And I think that's why myself, I know stressed when paving a street, you do the intersection because that's where your most traffic is. And you leave just one cold seam like 20 feet from the intersection or something. That's all I had, Your Worship.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, so your worship, through you to Terry, what was the budgeted amount that we had in our budget?
400,000.
400,000?
460.
460?
Yeah, I thought it was more than 400,000. So of the 460 that was budgeted, we've spent how much?
I think we're very close to 460 because there's been an extra 20,000 added, but there's also extra catch basins, and so we have to catch up and see exactly where we're at.
Sure. Yep. So I think what you're referring to when you're looking at the pictures there, Terry, those were from the presentation that you provided to council, I think on August 6th. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. And in those pictures, I see when I look at it now where the areas are circled, where it's going to be half paved. It was made clear in the presentation. But I guess just to go to Councilor McIver's point, my recollection when we had the discussion was my assumption was we were doing the whole street, not half the street. So I think that was maybe the confusion. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I guess I'll go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Terry, I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but my recollection, especially on McSween Street, and that's one that's kind of bothering me, is that we said we were going to go from Hiram to Prince and do that portion. And then I thought during our budget deliberations, we changed our mind and we said, no, we might be better off to go from Reeve Street to Hiram and do that section. Now I see there's only half done on the Hiram to Prince. So I guess that was after our deliberations. I was just that part I was confused about.
So, and we had a number of discussions of what part of McSween was going to be completed, and just even at our last meeting in August, we talked about the consideration for changing that, and we discussed it at that time as well, but we didn't, that wasn't changed as a result of those discussions. I guess in budget, there's always numerous discussions, and we come to consensus on agreement on what we're going to do. What I will say, if there is money left over after we do our final count, if there's funds left over there, then we could certainly look at adding more action.
Through Your Worship, I'll echo the comments of the other three councillors. I was under the assumption when we went in to do a section, we were doing a section, not a half a street or a lane. And when I got the call last Friday night, I guess it's a week and a half ago now, about one lane being paved, I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody was yanking my chain. I said, there's no way we're going to spend $500,000 this year on paving, and we're going to do half streets butted up to crumbling asphalt. So Saturday I went and drove around, and that's exactly what we did. I can't believe what we're doing. It's becoming a habit with our paving. I look down at the waterfront. How long has it been since we put the accessible parking spots in there? And we still get 20 feet of gravel from that parking spot to the road where these people are supposed to access. How are you accessing that through gravel with wheelchair? I'm sure it's a year or two that we've been asking to get that finished. It's still not done. We're doing half jobs right across the board. It's making us look bad, and it makes the town look bad.
Your Worship, I'll just respond to that. The town has been doing half of streets for many, many years. If you look around the town in Tamarack, especially in any number of areas, you do the area of the street that you have to do. So if there's a piece of roadway, if there's a piece of street that has to be done, You use your funds to do the worst part of the street. That's what the decision of council was, and that's what was carried out. And I cannot do anything about you not understanding or council not understanding what the drawings were put before you and what you had agreed to complete. As I mentioned, if there's areas, it would be much better, of course, to pave a whole street. But we're trying to get the most value for money that we can from the money that's allotted for that. And there's a lot of paving that's been done as a result of that. And there is 2 complete streets. And there's a significant amount, the worst parts, certainly staff feels that the worst parts of the asphalt have been repaired. Now, we're also going around and we're doing patching as well. And there's cold joints all the time, and there's ways to deal with cold joints in asphalt. Not ideal, certainly better to have a hot joint to do both sides at the same time.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay.
I just wanted to double check with Deputy Mayor McIver.
Mhm.
Was there any other items that you wanted to cover off on that
No, I just wanted
early or other business item?
just to follow up with Terry's comment.
Sure.
I don't have any question about what was presented. It was just what was discussed at budget. And I think listening to council is that we were all under the assumption when we were discussing paving that the street was going to be paved. So it was just maybe miscommunication or whatever when we were discussing it.
Sure.
So Terry will move on with the presentation.
Yeah, I'll move on to sidewalk replacement, and we included AT lanes here as well. So this is the AT lane work that's been done, AT and sidewalk work that's been done, and it's underway right now. So we have a large sidewalk replacement project that's 50% funded by the province. That's starting on the 30th of September, and that work has been included here too. So again, I'm not going to review every street and just some examples, but we'll look at costs first. Over the last 4 years, there has been completed and there will be completed this fiscal year, 4.6 kilometers or 4,616 meters of sidewalk. Total cost of sidewalk replacement has been $1.650. The external funding on the sidewalk, we're fortunate in specifically on one project that we had external funding of $714,000 for that. But then the municipal funding for that piece, for all that sidewalk was $936,000 over the last 4 years. Total cost of AT lane, we put in $2 million, or we'll finish putting in $2 million this fiscal year. The leveraging ability for AT lane is very, very good. So the external funding on the AT lane was $1,647,000. So a significant portion, it's actually 79% of the total cost of the AT lane was funded by others. Municipal funding on that was $428,000. If we look at that, so we'd call linear hard surface linear installations. So that's asphalt, sidewalk, and AT lane. Of the total of 3 million, just over 3,133,000, 56% of that was spent on asphalt. So the vast majority of the money from the town on those surfaces was towards asphalt. Sidewalk was 30%, and AT lane was 13 or 14%. So it's been a struggle us trying to leverage money for asphalt, and it's hard to do projects without extra funding. So just some examples of the sidewalk that's been completed, and I think you're well aware of that. Sydney Road, Granville Street, waterfront. So again, that's HE structure, Macquarie Drive extension. We had active transportation lane to give us that pedestrian walkway there. That's the Macquarie Drive extension again, waterfront. This is what's coming up. So this is the water, this is Water Street. So this is where the AT lane, or what we replaced with the boardwalk is, and this is what we're replacing. So there's McSween Street. So going by McSween Street to Philpott on what's now a grassed area in our right of way. So we've submitted the plans to CN, and we're trying to get approval to move forward with that now. So we've been dealing with CN now for several years on this, but the design is complete, and we're asking for authority to be able to move forward with that. This is the Eastern Town Connector. So this is Queen Street and Queen Street Extension. So this is a revised design from last year. So new crosswalk, modern crosswalk, AT lane down to Cargill Trailer Court and to McDonald Street. That work started today. And the Pine Ridge Drive Active Transportation. That project is awarded to Ryland Construction and will start the first week of October. This is the other part. This is Sunset Park. So small piece of AT lane there that we put in, that the town put in, and that will be extended to go along the water in Sunset Park. Any questions on sidewalk?
No, through you, Your Worship, just want to clarify. So this summer, the project that's not yet begun is for a pretty significant amount of investment in sidewalks for the town. It's a total of $800,000, $398,000 of which I think the town is contributing, and the other matching $398,000, am I correct, is monies that was provided to the town through a one-time grant from the province, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty significant to be able to address that much sidewalk. The other issue is the AT trail going up from Macquarie Drive up to the Crown Road. That, again, we're not contributing to that portion. That's coming from the province.
That's right.
Right, just want to clarify
that.
Any other questions? Back over to you, Terry.
Okay, utility upgrades. So we've been working on this on water system upgrades since 2018 with looking for funding for this work, and this present government has allowed us to move forward with this with the federal government as well. So this is just tank demolition. That's the old tank gone. This is what the new tank looks like. You've certainly seen this before. 20 feet higher. This is more narrow and higher. It's going to give us more head and for the water, which gives us more pressure in that area, just directly adjacent to the tank. Concrete going in right now. That's the gravel's ready, compacted. A big part of that project was was valve chambers, extremely dangerous. So all of that work has been moved up. All of the valves and stuff will be moved up out of the ground, both at Pitt Street and McDonald Street valve chambers. It's McDonald Street PRV. You can see that right off Granville Street. Water treatment plant roof. The Tamarack water tower, the PED has been redundant since 1995, but it was gone in the last 4 years. So you go right there.
That was so magical, Terry.
Yeah.
Can we see that again? Terry did it.
That wasn't me. We had an engineering, an IT student with us 2 years ago that did this presentations. We're finding all kinds of things that this person is still being taught. On your slides. So that's the old ball coming down. So that was a great thing to have done after many years, and there was concern, especially the local citizens of Tamarack. Leachate agreement with GFL. That's a large revenue item for the town. That was done. Any questions on utilities? Waterfront. I think there's been a vast improvement in the waterfront over the last 4 years. We've seen beautification. Seating. This is huge chairs. that we've been talking about for at least 8 years.
He's willing to share though, like people are allowed to sit in them,
Yeah.
are you? Yeah.
So there's a handsome picture of the chair of the waterfront committee, Mark, and member Huey, Paula, and Sharon McDaniel, and thank you. And so just a portion, that's soon as, that's when our interpretive panels were installed. Kiosk buildings. This is Station House. Just a clarification. So we had a long-term lease with a restaurant developer. That restaurant developer bought kitchen equipment, pulled out building permits, had complete design, was not able to move forward with that because of lack of kitchen people to work in the restaurant at that time. We have to remember that it was a very tumultuous time during COVID, and then the period after COVID, and what we experienced through that period of time, specifically with respect to labor shortages, building material costs uprising, and a number of things. But so that building is vacant now. What you've decided is to go out with a request for proposal for another tenant for that facility. Oceans Innovation Center, $1 million invested in the old Creamery building, both in the front portion, the Ocean Innovation Center, and within NCC. Sunset Park, significant improvements in Sunset Park. We used to call it Boulder Park. There's no boulders there anymore. We have fencing. We have accessible parking. This is the Port Hawkesbury Food Bank. When we talk about the waterfront, we talk about the waterfront starts at Reeves Street and Granville at the bridges and goes to Old Sydney Road. This is a project that was done through COVID, which was the upgrade of the food bank, both outside and inside. The grant was with respect to downtown revitalization, but we're also able to do interior finishes. There was a walk-in cooler, a walk-in freezer installed, roof, new windows, new siding, and improve the aesthetics of the building as well as the veranda, which helps with clients getting out of the weather as they're waiting. Under facilities, so number of you're well aware, I think, of all the work that's occurred in facilities under roof replacements. That's just one picture of Station House, but we've done the fire hall roof, we've done the incubator mall, the rec shed, Port Hawkesbury Civic Center, Conference Center. That project is just wrapping up right now. We just received this morning, we received a new generator, our mobile generator, but all the electrical work has been completed, electric heat, all the extra plugs and service in the building to ensure that this building, as well as the fire hall, can be used as a conference center. Generator, we put generators. We have the new one that we received today for the conference center. This is the generator skid that went into new generator skid that went into the fire hall. There's also one that we installed at the airport. Security upgrades in our parks. Energy audits, just completed. We're continuing revitalization of the energy audit, so we had a push there and right back into it right now with a concentration on the fire hall and looking at ways that we can address our heating system and insulation and efficiency there. Obviously, a dramatic event happened over the last 4 years. We lost our public works building. You see our firefighters at work trying to protect, but keeping people safe around it and trying to put out the fire. Literally out of the ashes, we have a new building, which is with a structure.
Dramatic, Terry.
Yes, yeah. Which is so new structure there. Roof has gone on. Started today. We're actually ahead of schedule, and we're looking at. There's an extra crew supposed to go on there, so we're very helpful that this project is going to go a little bit quicker. Things can change, but right now it's looking really good. So not only the foundations in, but a lot of the plumbing, especially on the plumbing on the admin side or the office side, is done. Airport, Alan J. McCacken, $3 million of the paving occurring there right now. I'll get into that a little bit later too. Port Hawkesbury Civic Center facility upgrades. So technology upgrades that you see around the Civic Center, as well as furniture. There's branding, our new website for both the town and the Civic Center, and new branding. A lot of new gear. Brand new backhoe, 440 cat backhoe, 550 Ford truck with a landscape body. That's been extremely valuable to us. New 350 truck for the utility. New 606 cat loader. Boom flail attachment for our sidewalk plow. New gator. We ride on lawnmowers. This is a big one. New Zamboni for the rink. Recreation facilities. Sturdy area pool upgrades. That's our upgrades to the pool that directly relate to programming and use. This is a very practical one. So we have money this year, as you know, to replace our filtration system. That's a big project. Filters ordered, and that's due to start at Christmas. So there'll be the normal shutdown, and those filters will come and will be replaced. Then will be ball field, drainage improvements, big project, Danley McDonald ball field. That's the ball field lighting. So that's started right now. You can see the size of what those foundations are going to be. These are 70-foot poles that are going to, with large weights on top of them, with big racks of lights, LED lights. Street area trails, always. I think everyone in town is very proud of our trails and the work that the dedicated group of volunteers do. We're just showcasing the trail to prospective physicians in collaboration with the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health. Just a ton of work done over the last number of years. So graveling and maintenance, new large stairwell. It was that piece of trail was almost inaccessible only to the mountain goats, maybe, I don't know. The development, also emergency locators, that's been a very important, it seems like a small thing, but we've had a number of emergencies on the trails right now, and these have been invaluable in helping our fire department to find where they're going to go there. The pole bridge, winter trail grooming. This is pool lighting, and right into programming. We started this term in COVID, and staff and with council support have did some phenomenal programming through that whole period of time. So if you remember, we weren't getting together. So very innovative things with respect to 1st of July and traveling around, everything remote, traveling around the streets. Santa Claus drove through every street on the back of a truck. We had wonderful programs for seniors. We had equipment loan programs. There was active in your community kit for seniors. There was also, not mentioned here, but dinners. There was funding that we received that we were supported meals for seniors as well through that whole process. Recreational aquatics, new software there. That's really made our system more efficient. March break day camp, summer day camp, just a phenomenal. I've heard so many compliments about this program. We have a dedicated group of students. We have a dedicated staff with Michelle and Corrine organizing this. Long lists and always full, and a wonderful thing that we have. Our volunteers of the year, we had 4 of them, and this year's volunteer is Sharon Harris, and I believe she gets her award tomorrow in Halifax. Or true.
Sure.
Adult senior programs. So we've seen chair yoga, pickleball, aquatics, aerobics, painting, any number of things. And our programming staff, specifically Corinne Gillis, has been very active in that and always looking for new opportunities. Very proud of that. Active Healthy Living, great cooperation with our schools, and a lot of active healthy living directed at children, directed at youth, and in all segments. Events, I'm not going to go through all of this, but again, COVID times, events didn't stop. They were just different. We had tunes on the trails. We had tunes on the town. We had a 2-year suspension of Granville Green, and it came back with a vengeance in 2022 with the Granville Green resurgence. And this year we just celebrated our 30th year of Granville Green. Massive crowds. The Granville Greens have been very well attended. Rain or shine, this venue has been used a lot this year because of rain and thunderstorms and any number of reasons, but always successful and always big crowds. Any number of shows at the Roxbury Civic Center in Sarek. The Maui-Omi Gala, Red Tribe Boxing. This is in honor of Truth and Reconciliation, a weekend that was celebrated, that was sponsored by the town. It was led by the mayor with the Mi'kmaq flag raising permanently on May 19th, 2023, I believe. Followed by the Maui-Omi Friendship Gala, which was a fundraiser for both Leaside and the Waikapa Family Healing Center. That gala alone raised $14,000 for those very, very deserving organizations. And Red Tribe Boxing, so we brought boxing into the Civic Center. Canada Day celebrations, phenomenally successful, huge crowds, hundreds of people that have arrived, and year after year, they only seem to get better. Christmas parade celebrations. Again, small hiatus with our Christmas parades, but came back even bigger and stronger after COVID. Very proud of Sensory Friendly Santa. Inclusivity is extremely important to the staff and council, as we know for the town of Roxbury. This is something that staff are very proud of enabling children to be able to participate in events. And this is one example of Sensory Friendly Santa. First night celebrations. Again, we have people from the Quad Counties that fill our arena through that. We talked a lot about fireworks here in council.
It was a popular topic.
And it was a popular topic. And so just a
Led
couple
by
of
yours
examples.
truly over here, Mr.
First-
Fireworks over there.
First night and the festival is great. Fireworks.
I'm putting it on a plaque and you're getting that when you're done the turn.
S'mores Hike Night. Very popular event for families and all, really.
Yeah.
Very fortunate to host the Cape Breton Eagles in a game against the St. John Sea Dogs. They played to a packed arena that was sold out. A very successful, very good event to showcase our facility. Housing, lots of stuff done on housing. Housing survey was done in cooperation with Cape Breton Partnership. That was an initial survey that was completed, and we've been utilizing that with developers. Request proposal for community housing, so it's a partnership with the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce. We were able to retain a consultant. In this case, it was New Dawn Enterprises, and we created a housing strategy. From the housing strategy, staff developed, and Jason McMillan's initiative developed a developer's handbook, something we have been talking about for quite some time. So new homes, we haven't seen new homes, unfortunately, home starts in decades, and we have some. So this is just some examples. So Aspen Close, Shibari Close. This is White Birch container home, very innovative. New start on McLaughlin Drive, foundations in. Two pads prepared for 2 duplex units on Cedar Court. DC developments. This is a gigantic development for the town of Hawkesbury. So you signed a development agreement for the eventual construction of 80 housing units off Memorial Drive. There's 16 of those that went up in a very short period of time, and they're now fully occupied. They were fully occupied very soon after advertising. New Dawn Development, part of the housing strategy, they identified the need, the need to do for New Dawn, an agreement to do a pilot development project. They've been able to move forward with that. They now have funding for consultants, for architects, and for a business proposal. Next meeting on that's going to be October 3rd, and we'll include the housing committee on that Blaine chairs. Street Area Chamber of Commerce, you just approved funding to partner with Street Area Chamber of Commerce for a housing not-for-profit initiative. That's to establish a not-for-profit agency to be able to move forward our funds. Emergency management. So last term we had an emergency management plan that was developed. It was developed by councilors and community members, we actually utilized that emergency management plan in the development of our COVID plan, and so that same structure was used. And in May of 2022, we hosted a provincial EMO mock event. So all of our staff have what's called ICS, or Incident Command System training, both the basic and advanced training, and that's what you see in the middle is the provincial EMO. They set up their command post for the training exercise in the Shannon studio. We were upstairs. Inverness was in their command center in Victoria County this as well. It was very good, a very good exercise. Then we had the real thing. So we had Fiona, and very, very fortunate that we were in the eye of the storm for Fiona, and we were extremely fortunate that we did not receive more of the effect of that storm than we did. So, very dramatic and traumatic effects in CDRN and Antigonish, in all the municipalities in Pictou County. But we were, because of our emergency plan, because of our training, our center was activated and ready to go. Fortunately, that we didn't really need it. Last year, however, we had two rain events, extreme rain events that had significant damage to the town, and they were, I believe, 2 weeks apart. They caused significant damage to our road works, to our storm sewers, to our sanitary sewer, but also to people's basements and homes. And there was a lot of flooding that happened as a result of that in private residence. So it was a very very difficult, severe rainstorms in July, which just doesn't happen. That's not normally when we see that, but we did. You see the asphalt popping up, and this is as a result of what we've seen is paving over of the curb and nowhere for water to go, and that's what occurs. That's what's occurred in the past. Just some pictures of we had our major flooding that I'm hearing from long-term residents that they've never seen anything like before. Again, we put a Port Hawkesbury homeowner's guide for flood prevention. Lots of compliments on that. Snowstorms, meter snow. There's Guy and his plow. That was a very difficult storm over a 3-day period, with our public works staff stretched to as far as they possibly could. We just got that cleaned up, and we had almost another meter of snow hit us again. Accessibility Accessibility plan, that's a big deal, 2022. So there was a mandate that plan was to be completed in 2022, and we were one of the few, municipalities that were able to complete that. That plan was led by community representatives and from council side was led by the mayor, with Councillor McQuarrie on the committee as well. So these are one of the biggest complaints that we heard through our surveys and through the work of the committee is sidewalk improvements. So we've talked considerably about sidewalk improvements. This is accessible parking. So this enables a car to drive on to the accessible parking and to access what's the accessible pathways and what will be more accessible features in Sunset Park. This is the same for the parking improvements at our playground. So again, 3 spots, transfer areas, and then hard surface right to the playground itself. Assistive hearing improvements. This is staff, but it's also in this room. So we have anyone with hearing impairment is able to get hearing assistance when they're in council. Development and marketing conditions. Just see, so it's hard to remember what's occurred and what hasn't, but there's been significant development in town over the last 4 years. This is the TD Bank Service Canada building just completed. Major renovation at Seaboard Tire. New storage units that were completed just off Paint Street. Cancel Ford expansion, which is ongoing right now. We have work at the runway. We talked about the $3 million worth of asphalt replacement. That's what's occurring now. And Celtic Air constructed a new, I believe it's about a 10,000 square foot hangar space, which is going to vastly increase the services provided at the airport. Home hardware. Our planning advisory committee, chaired by Councillor O'Coin, had moved forward with rezoning of the area to enable the McDonald family to move forward with the creation of a new home hardware at the former call center building. So that work is occurring. I'm told that the design has been completed, that demolition is completed, and they're moving forward with that. Lean Innovation Center, again, I mentioned that before, $1 million investment in that facility over the last 4 years. And the CDC residence, started during COVID, opened in our term. New businesses, these are just some. And so Strum Engineering, this is a very good sign for us. So when engineering consultants set up in town, there's work coming. And so this is a very, very good thing for us. Strum is a large consulting company that's established a presence in Roxbury. Running Man, the Collaborative Healthcare Center, opened during our term, and then there was official opening just fairly recently. Bretton Bargain Bins, Bobby's Waffle Shack, New Heart Store, Island Trails Child Care Center. Landry Lake Water Utility, we've talked a lot about the water utility, but obviously we know that the development of green energy, specifically with respect to Point Tupper, the creation of hydrogen and ammonia in plants that will be constructed in Point Tupper are gigantic developments worth billions of dollars. For us, our part, the town of Port Hawkesbury, is part of our supply of water for both feedstock that creates hydrogen and for cooling. Assessment growth. So it all comes down to money. So what does this mean? So we're seeing some development in town. We just showed you how we spent a whole bunch of money. But what does this mean? So over the last 4 years, 300 property transactions have occurred. There's been, after years of no movement of town properties, we've had 8 town-owned vacant properties sold, and we have one additional property for a multi-unit residential development that closes at the end of this month. External funding, just to show you funding again, 2024, $4.971 million. External funding, 2.6 million, 53% leveraged. This year is an anomaly. So just plan for 2025 is $12,618,000. So that doesn't include the airport. So you include the airport is another 3 million. That's $15.6 million of work that's occurring this year. So our last meeting in August, we showed the 14 projects that was involved in that. There was a lot that happened not just as a result of you saying we want to do a whole bunch of work this year. Much of this work has been planned for more than 6 years and is now coming to fruition. But when we went through COVID, there wasn't a lot of construction happening. When we got out of COVID, there was an infrastructure incentive programs that flooded the market with work, and the cost of construction went way up. That was followed by huge increases in building materials, and then it was followed by inflation. So we've been putting tenders out and not being able to work because we don't have budgets for it. So this is the catch-up year, both in with respect to being able to implement those projects. But we have very large projects. There are $2.3 million public works building, $3 million in the airport, $3 million in water treatment plant upgrades, and those are just some of them. But it's $15 million. It's a lot of work. This is what our assessment trend looks like. So as you've known, Aaron's talked to us about this any number of years. We had flat and decreasing assessments year after year after year. We're finally seeing a change in that. So over the last 4 years, we've seen a 20% increase in residential assessment, and we've seen a 17.3% increase in commercial assessment. So thankfully now we're on the right path. We just have to keep moving in this direction to be able to accommodate for inflation and requirements, other requirements. And really now, this year, we're in a catch-up year with respect to revenue coming into the town. That's the 2020-2024 term review.
Thank you, Terry.
You can breathe now.
Yeah.
All right. So I know these guys have been jotting down all kinds of questions and comments. So I'll start with you, Councilor Corey. Any comments or
Sorry if
questions?
you were seeing me shot down. No, I wasn't. I was just taking everything in.
I was just being.
Okay, you're being facetious.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you know I was going to use your favorite word?
I don't know. Anyhow, Mayor, I just want to say thank you to Terry and the staff that put this presentation together. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to deliver it too, but it's really, really good to see what's gone on. Because we know when we're meeting throughout the year, we're dealing with a lot of issues. And sometimes it's hard to remember what things we've dealt with. So it's good to have, I'm not going to say a concise presentation, but a fulsome, wholesome presentation of the things that have been accomplished. And yeah, so I just want to extend thank you very much.
Okay. Councilor Dickel?
Yes, thank you, Worship, and yes, Terry, thank you for the report. And as most people around the table know, and
Oh, is there history coming?
it's kind of history, but maybe not too much.
Don't disappoint us now.
Well, my heart is really with, as you know, over the last 30 years, the town of Port Hawkesbury has been the baseball. I coached kids here since a long time, and I would also like to mention the Sports Wall of Fame that was very, the last 2 or 3 years, Michelle was with us with it, was a lot done. And anybody who was up at the hockey game the other night, they knew people seeing the Sports Wall of Fame, and they were amazed with it. And Mr. Davis and the committee was very well. But I'd also like to say one more thing, and you mentioned it there, Terry, and the Dan Willie ball field lights that are gonna be, they're starting to be installed now, and there's some you hear it on Facebook, this and that, about cost and that. I heard it mentioning cost of different things that cost the town. Can you tell me how much that's gonna cost the town for the Hawkesbury for the baseball lights?
Baseball lights will not cost the town of Port Hawkesbury any money.
Thank you very
It's
much.
completely funded from outside sources.
Thank you very much. That's all for me, Your Worship.
Okay, over to you, Councillor O'Coin.
Through your worship, thank you for the presentation. It was well done. But a question came to mind when we seen the rain events last year. I do believe that we were supposed to hire an engineering firm to give us a study to see what needed to be done in the town to be able to sustain another large storm, and it's been well over a year now, and I don't know that we got a report back that we have a final result, or if we have any results from that.
Over to you, Terry.
Yes, so you approved funding for a consulting report this budget year, and that report will be completed this year, but it hasn't been completed as of this time. When that storm had occurred, there was the actual cost of that was well beyond anything that we could add within existing budgets, so that waited for a budget year, and it's in process now. Those were extremely abnormal storm events, and we need some study around what's existing, but that money's in budget, and part of that $15.6 million, and it will be completed as well.
Thank you.
Do you have any follow-up questions, Councillor O'Coin? And we saved the best for last. Deputy Mayor, over to you.
Through you, Your Worship. Also, thank you, Terry, for the presentation and everything that staff puts into it. I think thank you to council and the mayor. There's a lot of meetings that went on there to pull off that amount of work. Also, thank you to Aaron McCacken, our finance director, for putting up with us. And when we
Tough
were
job.
budget times, it gets pretty, I guess it can get out of hand at sometimes at budget meetings, and she's very patient, so thank you. And wish you all the best.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that was very, very nice, Mark.
Can be nice sometimes.
Anyway, just to echo, just compliments, it's a lot when you see everything cumulative. And I know there's a lot that wasn't even all inclusive. That was like highlights. It was a busy 4 years. Lots of heavy lifting from staff and council. Certainly, there's a lot to be proud of for this year. Not saying there's not more work that needs to be done. There's always more work that needs to be done, but it's certainly something to be proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the last 4 years. All right. Is there any other reports, Terry, that you'll be handing off to staff this evening, or?
Just a reminder again, if you have any questions, please get a hold of me, or with respect to those staff reports, contact the author, contact our senior staff directly.
Perfect. So under other business, I do have a little presentation I'd like to offer up for council consideration. Okay. So as you are all aware, we had a wonderful presentation from Stephen Long, who is here with us this evening. He was here last June to talk, not this past June, but the June prior, in 2023, to talk about honoring Austin Letcher. He's a conservation officer and provincial game warden from Port Hawkesbury. He served in Inverness County from 1947 to 1967 when he tragically lost his life in the line of duty. So of course this is a draft plan for the consideration of council, and certainly open to any discussion points as we go forward. So just a little overview of what we'll be talking about, a little bit about the request, a little bit about the idea that we've come up with, a little bit about the preliminary research we were able to complete, and then potential next steps. Okay, so a little bit about Austin Letcher, and I hope you don't mind, Stephen, that I took some of this information from your presentation that you provided in June 2023. So in 1947, Austin Letcher was hired as a game warden for Inverness County by Alistair Fraser, the first provincially employed forester on Cape Breton Island. When Alistair was asked about the early days of the department and his wardens, Austin Letcher stood out. Letcher, and this is a quote from Alistair, Letcher was one of the best in the province, adding, as far as we know, Austin Letcher was the first game warden in Nova Scotia to use parachute flares for wildlife law enforcement. Innovative at the time, the flares were very effective for lighting up fields to locate poachers. And also, as you will recall in the presentation, there was a request. So Stephen did present to council and did request that the town consider a plan to move forward to honor the memory of Austin Letcher. And just as a result of his presentation, there are some current recognitions of Austin Letcher in various areas. So we have a monument for fallen conservation officers that exists currently in Shubenacadie. There's also a conservation officer honor roll on the provincial website. There's also the Canadian Police and Peacekeepers Memorial in Ottawa, and I think there may be something in Halifax.
Or is it the Parade Square?
At the Parade Square, correct. But there's nothing that we have currently in town to acknowledge Austin Letcher. Okay. So now a little bit about the idea that, certainly was a bit of a team effort. We kind of thought about this Centennial Trail. It was something that stood out. And potentially we could look at a rename or to create a memorial at the trail to honor the memory and legacy of Austin Letcher. So the whole idea around the Centennial Trail would be to pivot this woodland trail to be fully accessible and also to work with community partners, including the Unama'ki communities, to use a two-wide seeing approach in terms of what could that pivot look like. Also in honoring in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. So we kind of wanted to make sure we checked off a couple of boxes when we're thinking about an idea to honor Austin Letcher. One was in and around integrity. So what was the best way to honor the memory of Austin Letcher that is a reflection of his legacy, but that can also enhance our community and that can be inclusive for everyone. And in terms of that inclusivity, with Accessibility 2030 and the province's commitment to accessibility, it only made sense to consider how we might be able to make the Centennial Woodland Trail fully accessible. And I'm in the process of getting information from the province in terms of how many fully accessible woodland trails that we currently have. I suspect the number is very low. I also suspect that if this project could potentially move forward, we may have maybe the first all fully accessible woodland trail most definitely in the Strait area, but in Cape Breton Island. And in terms of collaboration, we will need lots of community partners, including Indigenous communities, Inverness County, since the Centennial Trail does lie within Inverness County, and also accessibility expertise, the province of Nova Scotia, Port Hawkesbury Paper, and others. Okay, and in terms of some of the preliminary research, there was all kinds of conversations had over the past 12 months, some conversations with the Trails Committee, certainly with family members of Austin Letcher as well, with Port Hawkesbury Paper representatives, with members of our Port Hawkesbury Accessibility Advisory Committee, with town staff, with our MLA's office, with Alan McMaster's EA, as well as other provincial contacts. And some of what we learned about the Centennial Trail, I think originally we thought that it was still a part of the ownership of the paper mill, but it actually was reverted back to Crown lands, so it is in the hands of the province currently. And in terms of accessibility potential, so the Centennial Woodland Trail is rated as easy for users due to its relatively flat grade, which could make it an excellent candidate for a fully accessible woodland trail. And as far as some other considerations, the Centennial Woodland Trail is located in Inverness County, so it will be important to engage with the municipality of the County of Inverness to determine if they would like to partner in this project. And also in conversations with the family, since Austin Letcher was a conservation officer with Inverness County, including the town of Port Hawkesbury, we saw this as a very fitting, place to be able to honor Austin Letcher. So in terms of timeline and next steps, so of course in June 2023, we had the request come forward to council. Since that time, we were doing lots of groundwork, doing some research, having some conversations, kind of feeling out some potential partnerships to, and also like really at the end of the day, just trying to understand if this was a plausible idea to move forward. And why we're bringing it forward today is basically just to review the idea with council. I did provide some kind of short updates in some of my committee of the whole reports over the last 18 months or so. But this is a lot more fulsome review of how far we've come since then. And just to kind of determine, if council is interested in taking this idea forward to determine whether it could be a viable project in 2025. So for the next public meeting, which will be the first Tuesday of October, we will ask council to consider a motion to approve the idea in principle and to strike a project committee with an assigned staff person to further develop the idea and potentially seek community partners. There is in, I believe, the later part of the fall, it's like a proposal application process. It's an expression of interest for a recreational trail expansion grant. And it's just to kind of scope out and determine if there is potential funding. So there is an envelope of money that the actual application will go forward in the new year in February. But this is an opportunity to put a preliminary project synopsis in, and then the province can basically say, okay, well, maybe you need a little bit more information here, but it'll definitely set you on the right course before you put in the broader, more detailed project proposal. And then, of course, if all goes well in 2025, it would be about, how can we, continue to propel this project forward with our partners and apply for funding to see this project become a success. Oh, wrong way. Okay, so just some final thoughts. This idea has certainly been inspired by both the request by family member Stephen Long to honor Austin Letcher, but also by Austin Letcher's legacy as a conservation officer who led with integrity and had an incredible love for nature. We hope the council will consider a motion at the next public meeting to approve the idea in principle and to move to strike a committee to begin to gauge interest, secure partnerships, seek out funding opportunities, and when ready, return to council to approve any project funding requests. So there won't be really a financial commitment with the ask moving forward to the next public meeting. If there is any funding implications, that will definitely come back to council. And did I go the right way this time? Did I break it, Terry?
Nope, there you go.
Okay. Okay, and thank you for your consideration. Okay, and I'll, at this point, I guess, see if there's any questions, and if council's all right, if we could maybe just take a moment to hear from the family. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a word or two, Stephen?
I'd just like to thank Brenda and all the work you've been doing on this, trying to get this off the ground. I think it's a great fit for that trail. My grandfather was one of the most respected, loved people you'd ever want to meet. He was a teetotaler, non-drinker, serious man, but again, well respected, took his job seriously, died on the job, recognized pretty well across Canada. Even young rangers today know of him because of Shubenacadie. It's quite a monument, Shubenacadie, to the other two gentlemen. Only 3 people in the history of that department have lost their job, have lost their life in service. Only 3 people, and that department's been going 150 plus years. I think it only fitting that my grandfather, this is a tribute that I never even thought of until it was, suggested to me. And at first I said, let's name the trails after him, but this is so much more meaningful. If you knew my grandfather, an accessible trail, and I did a little bit of research myself on that, it's hard to find a totally accessible trail in Nova Scotia. I mean, it would be a great asset to the town. Brenda touched on the fact that my grandfather was an Inverness game warden. He was hired for Inverness County. But Inverness plays a big part in his life because that's where he met my grandmother. She came in from East Lake Ainslie to the Pentecostal Street, and his brother lived across the street in Inverness, and they walked over to the church, and they spent the next, until he died in 66. My grandmother never remarried. It was a kind of a love affair, that's for sure. But I'm proud of what has been suggested, and I asked council to seriously consider this. It would be a tribute I can see only benefiting Port Hawkesbury in the long run. And I think I've talked personally to Alan. I think this would be a great project, and I ask council to support it.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
So we'll start, Councillor McDougall. Appreciate it.
No, I know the Long family for a long time, no pun. And I agree with the concept and the whole thing. I'm just wondering, and since the family's here, it'd be good to ask them. I mean, I'm the type of person that likes to get things done sooner than later. This has been going on now since a few years. And you were mentioning during your presentation, Mayor, we're gonna have to get the province on side, we're gonna have to get the Inverness County on side, we're gonna have to get the mill on side, we're gonna have to get the Indigenous on side, we're gonna have to get a lot of ducks in a row to get this done. If that's the route that the family wants to take, that's fine, but I'd like to, in my lifetime, I'd like to see something done. And if it's done where we can do it as a town, if that's, maybe that's not conducive to what the family wants, but it's a start. But I'd like to have something done. But I can see there's going to be a lot of roadblocks here, I think. So it's just, I think if we could do something as a town, maybe that might be a route we could take also. But maybe it's an option, maybe it's not. It's just my thoughts.
Sure thing. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, sure, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship. I agreed with this when Steve made the first presentation, and I support it wholly. And also, I would echo what Councillor McDougall was. There's a lot, I think, involved. Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned it was Crown property. Mm-hmm. If there's something maybe we can strike out on our own through the province, maybe to move it along a little faster, would be a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Just to give a little extra context, so we've been working with Alan McMaster's office, and we do have some contacts in terms of working with Crown land. It's significantly more difficult to have a different use for Crown land than what its current purpose is. But because we're looking at revamping a trail where a trail already exists, I'm getting some feedback that it's not a bridge too far. So just to give you a little feedback in that regard.
That's great.
Councillor Flynn.
Thank you. I'm glad that the Long family is here and spoke to this because, you know, it's been quite some time since we heard about it. I really didn't know that, that this was being worked on as much as it has been. I do find it a little disheartening that all this work is going in and none of council, other than the mayor, was asked to be involved or really wasn't kept up to date. When I've seen this, my first thought is, why are we going to do something outside of Port Hawkesbury again? But hearing the Long family supporting this, I support it. But my initial reaction to this ask was, again, why are we spending more money outside of the municipality? I will support it because that's what the family wants, but I do feel over the last, over a year and a bit, if this was being worked on and you were looking for something from council maybe should have been brought in a little earlier than a month before an election.
Okay, Councillor McCrory.
So, Your Worship, I'm not sure, I was just questioning Councillor McDougall. Was this presentation part of our meeting package that was emailed? It wasn't.
No, we sent it out, so I wanted to, you know, certainly if council needs some more time, you're more than welcome to take the time. But I just wanted to make sure that we provided it at committee of the whole, you know, rather than putting it in a package for our October meeting. So we wanted to make sure that council has this information.
Yeah, Your Worship, but normally, like, even the package that we had for today included documentation and a request from Straight Area Transit, so that council was aware of that for tonight. I don't want to get, like, time has been put into this. Just my overall comment is I'm supportive of the project, and if this is the direction that the family would like to go in, generally I'm supportive of that. I guess, as Councillor McDougall's alluding to, how complicated does it have to be, and if it's overly complicated, how long is it going to take to come to an end?
Yeah.
The property, if it's a Crown asset, and we're look to proceed with this Centennial Trail, is it contemplated that that would be an asset that would be turned over to the town of Port Hawkesbury?
So we did as much research as we could do, and we can't go any further without council's blessing. So, you know, in terms of just scoping out a project, talking to partnership, you know, potential partnerships, et cetera, you know, we're at a point now where if council is not supportive of this, then we have to do something else. So this is you know, this is the work that we have done in terms of what is the realm of possibility for this idea. We've scoped it out as far as we can. The idea now is in the hands of council if you want to support it. And that's, I guess it's over the next 2 weeks before we have our October meeting. You know, if you have any other questions or concerns or need more information, then happy to provide that.
Yeah, so Your Worship, I definitely support bringing it forward to our next public meeting.
Okay, very good. Everybody's good with that?
Yes.
All right. So the next item on Port Hawkesbury waterfront, the answer was already given in the presentation. Was just getting lots of questions about the port side of Hawkesbury, but since I declared conflict on that item, I didn't really have an update. So thank you, Terry, for providing that. So I do have now an answer when people ask me about that. And also just on the topic of the waterfront is looking absolutely beautiful right now. So I definitely want to commend all of the staff that have maybe been putting some effort into the waterfront over the last couple of days. It looks really good. And Straight Area Transit membership.
I'm going to step away from the table.
Your Worship, just before you go any further, if I may, I'd just like to, as a member, and it's probably be my last meeting as a waterfront member, but as a member of the waterfront, I think that the waterfront committee should be congratulated. The deputy mayor's chair and myself, Terry's on it, Gordy's been on it, and they did an excellent work, a lot of work, and people are seeing it down there now. I know we sat the deputy mayor and myself and yourself and Terry sat upstairs in the 6 years ago. And we were trying to explain the whole concept of how it worked, that the waterfront should work in terms of being a society and how we used to build buildings down there. And it all stopped there. And a lot of, some of them might have been COVID, but even before COVID. But it's starting to come back now, and I think it's a good thing, and I think the future council, whoever's here at the table, should really emphasize the waterfront area, because I myself, I don't know about the rest of you, but have been getting a lot of good accolades and a lot of good comments on the waterfront. I just want to say that before you move on to the next item.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so I just wanted for the record, just to note that Councillor Point did declare conflict on this item. So we have that in the minutes. Great, straight area transit membership, Terry, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship. So we had some correspondence from the Straight Area Transit Committee, specifically from Warden Mumbricket. And that's with respect to special resolution dealing with a bylaw change detail. And this is to update their bylaw, to modernize their bylaw and to stay in the bounds of the legal framework around that. And so there's a number of changes that they talk about: equity and inclusion. They talk about just modernizing the language around that. But the biggest change here is with respect to membership. And the change in the bylaw indicates that all current elected officials from the municipality of the County of Richmond, the municipality of the County of Inverness, and the town of Port Hawkesbury shall be members during the time that they are in office. Representatives from organizations whose clients benefit from the transit service may apply to be members. Community members at large who have a strong interest and or relevant expertise may also apply to be members. Formally elected municipal officials may apply to be members as organization representatives or community members at large. Application for memberships shall be presented to the board and approved by resolution. So one of the big changes that you're automatically members of the Straight Area Transit. And as we have seen before, there are two members, or I think it's two members. Two members are appointed by each municipality to act as directors for the Straight Area Transit Commission. But Councilor McCrory is a member of that, former chair, or possibly chair. Chair?
I think Councillor
Yeah.
did ask a question.
Yeah, I was just going to make a statement. I was just going to say that myself and Councillor Coyne sit on them. We're the two representatives. Councillor Coyne is
Councillor
McCrory, so it's my last name.
I mean,
so getting
you guys look
confused.
so much alike, it's an
But
understanding.
anyway, he's the chair, so I'm just going to, maybe he had a few to say. That's all I was going to say.
Thank you, Councillor McDowell. So the gist of this is to have to give credit to Warden Amanda. She's put a lot of work into a number of issues for the transit over the past year. And our bylaws were in severe need of updating. And so that's what she's gone through, updating them since, I think, at least 10 years. And one of the main issues that she identified was regarding membership for cooperative. You have to have members, and from your membership, you choose your directors. So this motion is to say we're designating the council members of Inverness Municipal Council, Richmond Municipal Council, and the town of Port Hawkesbury as being members of the Cooperative Limited, and from the membership from our council, Richmond and Inverness, we will select the two individuals that will serve on the board of directors. So I don't know if that clarification helps, but anyhow, yeah.
So,
So the idea is to take this forward for a motion to approve the changes at our October meeting.
Is everybody okay with that?
Great.
And your worship, I think what would come forward at our next public meeting is a motion move that council approve the amended bylaws of the Strait Area Transit Cooperative Limited as presented. I think that's the
I'm
motion.
assuming it's going to all three municipalities.
Yes, it's, yeah.
So if it's the wishes of council to move it forward, we'll move on with the next item.
Yep.
Would somebody be able to perfect Councillor Gregory? Missed the miss. I said Councillor when I said go get Councillor Gregory.
I didn't miss them.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so since we don't have any approved additions, we already dealt with the paving item.
Yes.
Future meetings, public meeting for October 1st, and usually we forgo the committee of the whole on the month of an election. So any questions or concerns? Everybody's good with that?
There was another, your worship, I think on October 4th, 3rd, we had a meeting coming up also.
Yes. Did you want to comment on that, Terry? We have a date, but we don't have a detail.
No, but I'm just meaning as a date.
Yeah.
Future meeting.
October 3rd.
October 3rd.
Public consultation on Reeve Street, Reeve Street website question on October 3rd. The times to be confirmed with the province.
We do have a date. Okay, so with that, for a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As a reminder, it is adjourned.